What is good, y'all? Sync here, and today we're talking about the sickest man in Kengan, the physician with precision, the doctor who denied death, the plague doctor, the plague father, the Geneva suggestion, the ST disaster who's been down with the sickness ever since he was born, with a PhD and an MD in biology and disaster, Dr. Hajime Hanafusa. Out of every fighter in the Kengan Ashura tournament, no fighter is ever going to be as deadly as Hajime Hanafusa. And so it just goes with the good old stereotype that I believe, of course, because I believe it is true. You don't ever want to fight a doctor because they know things about the body that you don't know. You never want to fight a person who knows more about your own body than you know about yourself. And so Hanafusa is the epitome of that case for Kengan Ashura because yes, he is the doctor, but yes, he is the most deadliest character in the entire series. No debate, question whatsoever. You could talk about the connector or anything like that. You could talk about, I don't know, Muteba, someone who's like really kills a lot of people. No one is going to be on par with the amount of people that Hanafusa can potentially kill. And so we are literally talking about the most dangerous character in all of Kengan Ashura. Hanafusa carries pathogens in his body, capable enough to, wipe out the entire island if he so felt like it. You know how this goes. We're going to talk about Hanafusa and his backstory, character design, character development, his role in the story, a little bit about his personality, and what we want to see from him going forward in the rest of the series. So if there's something you're interested in, please feel free to comment down below what you want to see next, follow, like, yada, 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 the whole nine. So let's begin with his backstory. And so Hanafusa's backstory is a bit questionable if you want to look at it from a realistic standpoint, but that's how anime actually goes. So he was born with a sense of crazy that is similar to Meguro. But what made Hanafusa different from Meguro is that Hanafusa actually had reason, and he actually had like a little bit of a conscience. Well, not really much of a conscience, but more so he had logic behind his madness. And that's why he was able to actually still become a doctor. Now, shortly after he became a doctor, he then cut ties with his parents of his own volition. There was no really rhyme or reason for it. Like, they didn't treat him bad or anything like that. He just cut them off. Frankly, it's probably better for them because he was batshit crazy even then. He surgically restricted his hypothalamus, that part of your brain that allows you to not feel pain. He did that surgery himself, which begs the question, how did you perform brain surgery on yourself? And also, just assuming you can do that, it had to have hurt a lot. But anyways, after removing his hypothalamus, he then became an underworld doctor. Now, it doesn't mean that he's not like a doctor in a sense of just like a professional medical sense. He is a licensed medical doctor, but he is an underworld surgeon as well. In fact, he modified Tarashi's face, the assassin in the, the Purgatory Coliseums, where he essentially did all of his plastic surgery several times, even to the point that Hanafusa is just like, oh wait, oh, that's my patient. Now I recognize him. Well, now I know we're going to get another one now. He just got like endless money coming in, tunneling to him. Like, you can imagine how much these underworld people are paying just to get treatment from Hanafusa. Because you got to admit, there's actually some good treatment. This man revived Mokichi, who Ryan secured the kill on. Okay, Hanafusa does some good. He does some good work. Okay, he may be clinically insane, but he does some really good work. Anyways, his age and everything else is not really displayed to us because when you really think about it, does it matter how old Hanafusa really is? Because he's just going to perpetually look like he's in his 20s. Anyways, after that, on top of being an underworld surgeon, Hanafusa is an agent of the Japanese government. So the Japanese government sent down Hanafusa to actually take care of a lot of different things outside of just Bondo, okay? Don't forget, Hanafusa single-handedly took down the Army of God. Yes, the Army of God cult that's very prevalent in Strike It Rich. Hanafusa took them out by himself. And so I really want to see him in Strike It Rich. Anyways, when it comes to his actual character design and why Hanafusa is the way that he is, it's just how he was. And so he is modeled after a scrap design of Oma, actually. How Oma has like many different designs that were made for him. Hanafusa is one of those designs. In fact, right now in Omega, they have this thing with the whole Oma verse and like the consecutors, and it's just getting messy because everyone is Oma now. But anyways, back to Hanafusa. So Hanafusa does have respect for different medical heroes, or rather medical anti-heroes in different mangas, most notably Blackjack and Dr. Kiriko from Blackjack. In fact, when it comes to Hanafusa's character design, there's not really much for us to go off of. I mean, Daro and Sandro wrote down right here that he was drawn with a sense of trying to make like a living doll aspect to him, which I kind of see it here. I mean, in this other design, he has a lot longer hair, and you can kind of see it in his eyes, but in the final cut, of course, his hair is a lot shorter and his eyes look still dead as before, but I kind of get what he means with the whole like living doll aspect. Now with that covered, let's talk about his fighting style, okay? So Hanafusa fights with the Ling Chu Chenna, which is the oldest form of Chenna. It's said that a master of this fighting style can cripple their opponent in just a single blow. Now the way this fighting style works is that you're targeting a person's pressure points, or rather acupuncture points. It's an old Chinese style of fighting. And for Hanafusa, he doesn't really like fighting. I mean, he's not a fighter. He's just a guy. He's just a guy. He's just a chill guy, okay? He doesn't really give a fuck about anything. He's just a chill guy with a lot of poisons in his body. And so the Ling Shu Chen Na is very effective against physically superior opponents. His most notable move is Terminal Stab. It's a direct shot towards a person's cervical vertebrae. Now he tries this move on Bando, but of course Bando, having that insane flexibility, he was able to counter it and fracture both of Hanafusa's fingers. Now, the cervical vertebrae is a very vital part of the body, and what makes it such a pivotal point to attack at first is because you can't really build muscle around it. Next is going to be Hanafusa's bone blades. Now, his bone blades are carved out of his own femurs into makeshift blades that he keeps along his wrist, kind of like Wolverine, where he can like retract them and detract them whenever he feels like it, apparently. I don't know, it's kind of cool. I bet when he was making this, like, yo, this is actually kind of cool, bro. I can actually like make bone blades out of my own arms. Like, that's gonna be very painful, of course, but it's Hanafusa and he doesn't really feel pain, which by the way is another one of his fighting styles. Because he doesn't actually feel pain, he's able to move like however he needs to. In fact, at one point during his match with Bando literally cleared his shoulder and Hanafusa just swiped with the other one. And so what makes Hanafusa's pain tolerance very different from the pain tolerance of other fighters like Meguro or Hung Zhao Yu. Hung Zhao uses endorphins. Meguro uses endorphins as well. You see, Meguro is still capable of feeling pain when Mateba grabbed his nuts. And so he can still feel pain. He's just using his own endorphins to block it out. But Hanafusa literally cannot feel it at all. It's just gone. It doesn't even exist for him. Like, his brain can't even fathom what pain actually is. And so that's what makes it different between him and Meguro. And so, of course, Hanafusa has a lot of other like jacked up things that goes inside of his body as well. And that's because he's able to manage it because he doesn't actually feel pain. Like, he has high pressure gas stuffed into his heel that allowed him to do like a strong kick up against Bando. He also has like several mechanisms in his body in place just in case he were to die. So, of course, if any normal person were to have these mechanisms inside their body, it would be very painful. But when it comes to Hanafusa, he doesn't really mind it. It's just a matter of keeping him alive. This man had both his fingers fractured by Bando, and he didn't even notice they were broken until he looked and said, oh, I guess they're broken. Now, last but not least, we got to talk about his strongest weapon in his arsenal, his blood. Now, Hanafusa being a doctor, he has several pathogens in his body, but he also carries the antibodies for said pathogens. And so, because he's able to carry the antidote within his body, but he still has like all these like various diseases and such, this man is just a walking sick person who is being kept alive by several different myriads of cures, but he has even more amount of diseases in his body. This is why it's very important to note that Hanafusa, if he literally felt like it, he can use the diseases in his body to wipe out the entire island and no one will be able to escape. And so maybe Medicine Man. I think Medicine Man might be the only one to survive a match against Hanafusa. You know what? Maybe not. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe give Medicine Man a little bit too much credit here because that just came to my mind real quick. That like out of all the people in the Kengan universe, Medicine Man was the one to actually be able to stop Hanafusa. In fact, if Medicine Man pulls up in Omega, like when Hanafusa does something wild, I'm going to lose it. Let's go on to his personality. Now, Hanafusa has a very unhinged personality, of course, but he is very skilled at everything that he does. In fact, he's able to drive any vehicle for some reason. I don't know why that detail is added in there for him, but Hanafusa is technically able to drive any vehicle. Take that knowledge as you may. But he's not loud. He's not foaming at the mouth like mad person like Meguro. He's literally the most dangerous version of a mad person. A insane person who's calm and intelligent. That is probably the most scariest thing to imagine. Hanafusa could really be a really good villain if you think about it like that. But he doesn't kill for fun. He doesn't really take pride in fighting people. He simply exists in this world. In the entire Kengan universe, Hanafusa is here just to dissect people. Just to do that. Just to learn a little bit more. That's his goal. He doesn't have any other reason to do it. He just wants to keep on doing his dissections. Why? We don't actually know. It was never really explained to us. But that's just how he is. But his relationship with his assistant, Kokomi, it's chaotic, bro. It's chaotic as hell, man. Like, she is actually not his assistant. Fun fact, she is a secretary from Taito University who got pulled into the Annihilation tournament. And so she was just a secretary who works as a nurse, yes, does have the capability of doing it, yes, but does she know anything about Hanafusa before the actual Kengan Annihilation tournament? Absolutely not. And so she is being thrown into all this. Of course, Hanafusa lays down the smackdown on her, and then she falls hook, line, and sinker. I would argue that Kokomi is also not sane because she falls for Hanafusa very, very hard, and it's very noticeable. In fact, it's so noticeable that you would assume that she knew Hanafusa before the Annihilation tournament. And so, I gotta give it to Hanafusa on that one, all right? He inadvertently pulled a good one. He inadvertently pulled a good one, all right? I think that's what he means by piloting any vehicle. Anyways, so outside of performing all these complex surgeries before the match, his match even started, like, this man saved Mokichi's life before he even fought Bondo. Okay, let me give you the rundown on this, all right? This man Hanafusa is responsible for any character in this series who should have died to actually have still been alive, all right? So he revived Mokichi before it was cool. He revived himself before it was cool. He even revived Oma. Later on in Omega, we learn that Hanafusa is the reason that Oma is actually still kicking. Of course, with the help of the Kyrie clan too, but still, Hanafusa was there. You could say that Hanafusa's role in the story after his match with Bondo just is to carry on the entire series of Omega, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But first, let me get on to the importance of his match with Bondo, because Hanafusa's match with Bondo is very, very, very important to the Japanese society. You see, Bondo being a death row envy who technically cannot be killed because he just survives the only method of killing, which is hanging. The Japanese government can't allow that because if word got out that Bondo, a death row inmate, is still alive after several attempts of being executed, it means that he beat the law, and that can't fly in government. And so they sent Hanafusa out in order to kill Bondo within the Annihilation tournament. And that was the only reason Bondo was even able to show up to the tournament to begin with. So Hanafusa carrying out this mission is an act of him still being an agent of the government and helping out the entire society by taking out Bondo. But Hanafusa also doing this means that, oh boy, I get to dissect Bondo Yohei. No one even knew that he was actually alive. Yes, I can't wait to do it. I bet you that's what's going on in his head. He's like, oh boy, I can't wait to actually go dissect Bondo. That's what goes on in his head. He is not like, you see, the thing with Hanafusa, he is never worried about himself. He is never worried about his own safety because he knows that if anything were to happen, he can just put himself right back to life. He has several mechanisms in place just to bring him back to life. Oh, you broke my arm? Yeah, it's all right. There we go. Good as new. Look at that. And this is exactly why, during that moment in Omega, when everyone was shitting their pants when the connector showed up, Hanafusa was the only one who was calm because he knows that even if the connector is like this martial arts god, no matter who you are, you're going to die. Like, that's That's literally the whole thing with Hanafusa, is that I don't care what you are or what you're going to do. I don't care what your fighting style is. You're dead. He doesn't even got to use the gun. You're just dead. Because if we're going by the logic that, of course, some of the diseases that he has can actually go airborne the moment that he dies, because let's face it, okay, this is Hanafusa. I'm very, very confident that he has several diseases in his body where if you are in the vicinity of it and his blood goes airborne, then a lot of people in that vicinity are going to die. That is what I thoroughly believe. You cannot fight me on this. And so with that in mind, it is such a big fuck you to the entire story of like a martial arts manga, but having him actually allowed the story to progress several times, because with Hanafusa being able to bring back Oma, it helped us bring back Oma. With Hanafusa having all those pathogens in his body, it made the connectors showing up and nearing just like flooring everybody. He had to say, oh, wait, hold up. Yeah, we kind of can't allow that. Yeah, this guy might got us. I think he got our number. Yeah, let's calm down for a second. Let's talk this out. And that's when they all decided to get more civil with each other. And so the question then becomes, how strong is... No, I'm just kidding. No, Hanafusa's not strong. He's just deadly, okay? He's not a strong fighter. He is just a deadly person in this series. And so what I want to see from Hanafusa later on down the line is definitely him using these diseases. Like, I want to see him just absolutely wipe the entire Westward faction just by like cutting his wrist or something like that. I don't know. If he could just like find a way to put Hanafusa and then allow him just like wipe out everyone on like a battlefield or something, that would be hilarious. But in conclusion, Hajime Hanafusa is more than just a fighter in the series. He is a person who has questions that are unanswered. He is a person that the series hasn't really answered because we don't really know what he's fully capable of. In fact, Sanjuro wanted to write down more about what Hanafusa is capable of outside just the high pressure gas in his heel, the bone blades and everything like that. But it's not really capable for him because it doesn't really fit the dynamic of the story that he's trying to portray. So just having this like weapon in the story is such a big cop-out at times because he can be used in order to progress everything. But if we never actually see it unfold, we don't really get the full effect. You know what I mean? We only get to see him use his diseases once or twice. And I've gone on about the diseases several times in this video, but that's the important thing when it comes to Hanafusa now, is that he is capable of ending the series at any point in time. Literally, at any point in time, Hanafusa can end the series. The only way I can see it not happening is if he's going against the connector and the connector pulls the same trick he used against Ga Mukaku, where he just says, oh yeah, I don't really got to breathe anymore. And Mukaku's looking at him like, surprise Pikachu face. You don't got to what? But yeah, that's actually going to do it for today's video on Hanafusa. Let me know what you guys think down below, what you want to see from him later on down the series. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. With that being said, my name is Sync. I'll catch you guys later. Y'all take care.